thank you everybody for joining. This is, first, my name is Chris, and I am the Engagement Campaign Director for ImproveCareNow. I appreciate y'all joining on this wonderful Wednesday evening. This is the fourth of our four-part summer webinar series, our community engagement learning trainings. This one is titled Story of Self, Story of Us, Story of Now, How to Talk About ImproveCareNow to Build Your Team. We are going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and get started. The agenda for today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ImproveCareNow trainings and kind of where this fits in with the rest of those things. Talk about Story of Self, Story of Us, Story of Now, what they are, why they're important, and then we're gonna have an opportunity to hear a couple stories and for you all to share some things if you're interested, and brainstorm different ways that this can be personal story can be implemented at your care center or in your work, and some learning objectives for tonight. So one is learn about the trainings and how to access them. Two, the different types of stories, how to use them. Three, how to develop your story, and then planning ways that you can implement these things. Before we get started, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping. There are a number of times where I will ask for y'all to participate, and if you see there should be a chat box, and you can chat in a chat box or in a questions box. You can't see when other people chat. This is just a unfortunate glitch in the software that we have, but you can be assured that I can see it. And when you chat, I'll try to read those things out so that everybody can see them. And so let's try that out right now. If you could, in the chat box or in the question box, maybe give your name, one thing you're interested in learning tonight, and then where you're from, or what care center you're from. And while I talk about the ICM engagement training, y'all can type those things in, and then as soon as I'm done, I will share some of the information. Great. So the ICM engagement training series is called the Community Engagement Learning Series, and the goal is to support patient and parent engagement team development at the local or national level. Each of the trainings will include new information, hands-on skills development, and the opportunity to do local planning. We are shooting to produce 8 of these trainings. We're shooting to produce 8 of these trainings a year. The first 4 came out starting in spring, and this is the last of those trainings to be held on volunteer recruitment, snowflake model organizing, which is one we did a couple weeks ago, relationship development to support team building, and then Story of Us, Story of Self, Story of Now, which we're doing tonight. If you missed any of those, they are up on our website. You can go to ImproveCareNow.org, and click on, I believe, photos and videos, and if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a link to the summer video series. I would just read the web address, but it's kind of long, and so we'll also send that out in a follow-up. So we've heard from Deb. Deb is on. She's from Massachusetts, from Bay State. Amy from Vermont. Amy, this is her first webinar. Just excited to see what there is to learn. And if you haven't chatted yet, feel free to chat in the questions box. We have Jennifer She's from NYP Cornell, and interested in learning how to involve more patients, parents, in their centers. Bing from Cincinnati. Feel free to keep typing. I'm going to move on. I'm going to keep typing those things. I will ask for that kind of participation a few different times throughout this training. Last thing on the ICN engagement trainings, we will be rolling out the second 4 of these starting in late September or early October with our virtual community conference, and those will run through the fall. And so you'll have another opportunity to check out the next 4 trainings we're gonna have, which are gonna include things like digital tools to help organize quality improvement for patients and parents, working together with care center patients and parents, working together with care center staff to build teams, and then the second part of the Snowflake organizing model session, and so those will be posted on our website. We're finishing and locking up dates for those now, but and I should say, if you would like for us to present these trainings to your folks at your center, either via webinar, or you're interested in talking to us about coming out there and doing trainings, or you want some train-the-trainers so you can present these, let us know. These are absolutely designed to support local team building, and so we want to be supportive of you all being able to put on these trainings, or working with you to produce these trainings for a local audience. Carmen from Arnold Palmer in Orlando is also on. My mom lived near there. She lived in Tavares, Florida, until very recently. She just moved to Fort Myers, but seeing Orlando reminds me of that. So I want to talk about story of self, story of us, story of now. Janine is also from Orlando. Personal story is we're going to learn the different types of stories here. I'm going to talk about 3 different types of stories in this training, and we'll spend most of our time talking about story of self, because it is I think the thing that each of us can work on tonight and use most directly. I use it all the time. Today I was in a meeting where I used it. Last night you'll hear me use my personal story today. You'll hear from Deb in Massachusetts, who's going to share her personal story. It's a great way, if you can see on the screen, it's that first box, talking about why you're involved, what motivated you to be involved, and what happened because of that, how it's making a difference in your life and other people's lives. The story of us, so that's the story of ImproveCareNow and us together. What are our shared values? What are our shared experiences, and how that makes us stronger? And then the story of now is what's our strategy, and what actions can we take? What opportunities are folks given to take part in taking ownership of things and making a difference in being involved? And so these are the 3 types. These are the 3 types of stories. Like I said, we'll spend more time on story of self than any of the others, just because I think it's the thing that is used most frequently. So first I want to talk about emotion in storytelling, and this can be true for all 3 different types of stories. One, storytelling is used to inspire action. In community organizing, it's a way to convey either the urgency or the strategy or why somebody should be involved, and it's talking about our values. So values inspire action for emotion. Some examples of those are hope over fear, community over being alone, making a difference over self-doubt, and so those emotions or that emotion can drive people to action, which is in organizing ultimately what we want it to do. Like that's the end goal, is to get people active and engaged and involved. This emotion in storytelling doesn't mean that every time you tell your personal story that that the room is going to break into tears. Some people have stories that do that. Mine never has, and that's okay. A story can be inspiring without leaving the room in tears. I'm going to talk about the story of us for a second right now, and here is an opportunity for to type in and share. So I want to ask these questions. How do you all think that we talk about ourselves at Improve Care Now? What do you think our shared values are? Which of those values inspire action? What inspired you to get on this call tonight? What challenges do our community members face, and what do we seek to change? So you can go ahead and type those things into the chat box. And while you do, I want to try to pull up a little bit about where some of this information is shared on our website. So the best place, and you probably saw this graphic on the slide, but if you go to About and then Purpose and Success, this is a place where I find a lot of great information about the story of us, and it kind of shares our general message frame and what our purpose is, and is a great way to if you're looking for ways to talk about what Improve Care Now is about and what it does. This is a great place to start. ImproveCareNow.org, About, and then Purpose and Success. So you can see the community values: inclusivity, honesty, transparency, community empowerment, and learning, and continuous improvement. Those are the things that we build around. And then in kind of longer terms, you can see that you can read more about our goals being in providing opportunities for us all to come together to build a collaborative approach to medicine, encouraging new ideas and best practices, and figuring out how to spread those ideas faster. And so I encourage you to get on here and check out some of these things if you have questions. The other good place that I have found to look at stories that help to share that story of us is our Loop blog. And so you can go to ImproveCareNow.org/Loop, or you can go to Get Involved and then click on Loop, and you can find stories that I think share our values or represent our values on here. The Finding Hope, the one that was most recently posted, is by Maria Lesser, and I bring it up because she actually helped to design this training, and so I wanted to give her a shout out while we talk about values. So if you have any thoughts on this or answers to this question, feel free to continue to type them in the chat box. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is talking about personal story. And this is where we're going to spend most of the rest of our time. And so what is a personal story? Well, first I want to say that it's your story, and nobody can ever tell you that it's wrong, because it's your story and it's your reasons for getting involved. So it's personal and honest. It inspires action. It's short and concise. It's not meant to be 5 or to be 10 or 15 minutes. Most of the time when a personal story is told, most folks have a 2-minute version and a 4-minute version, and it shares values. And so you can see this is Michael. He's a member of the engagement team at Cincinnati Children, and I thought this was a great example of a few sentence personal story. Things aren't perfect, but my daughter has been able to bear the burden of Crohn's more more likely in large part because of the way ImproveCareNow has enabled us to be more active partners and help her to stay healthy. And you learn a lot from that. It's only a few sentences, but there's a lot that can be shared. And believe it or not, there's a specific structure to stories. It starts with a challenge, so something that you want to overcome, and then a choice that you made to overcome that, the outcome, and they're all building to ask, right? If you remember the previous slides, that storytelling is used to inspire action, right? That's where the ask comes from, and we're gonna have a couple opportunities to listen to stories and do so you can hear examples, and then see if you can identify the challenge, the choice, and the outcome. And I'm actually going to tell my personal story now, and we'll start, and then we'll go and we'll hear Deb's story, and then we can practice and have you all share, and then we'll have some just time for open and general question and discussion. So, as I tell my personal story, my ask for you is that you listen and in the chat box chat and I see if you can identify the challenge, the choice, and the outcome, and put those in the chat box. So one of the big reasons I wanted to get involved with ImproveCareNow is that my brother has ulcerative colitis, and when he was diagnosed when he was 14, and he was put right into adult care. He didn't get a lot of support. There were he's 32 going on 33, he'll be 33 in a few weeks. Now, there weren't networks like this that existed then, and he's had a pretty rough time. There have been multiple times when he's had to, he's in grad school, when he's had to delay his school or take semesters off. And I got married a number of months ago, 10 months ago now, and not quite 10 months. And he actually missed my wedding because he was in the ER because of his UC. And so when I saw the opportunity to get involved with ImproveCareNow, and I started to learn some of the resources that were out there and the networks that was out there. I actually, the first time I was really around the community was at one of our community conferences, and I spent the whole time sending text messages and emails to my mom and my brother about all the resources and all these things that we didn't know existed. We had no idea that they were things that were available. And so I wanted to make sure, as somebody with a background in community organizing, I knew how powerful and empowering that knowledge and those resources could be. I wanted to make sure that every patient and every family member knew about this community, knew about this network, and knew the resources that were available. That nobody would have to go through the same or have the same experience that my brother did. And so I chose to start organizing with ImproveCareNow. And over the last year, we've started to make a big difference. There are hundreds of more patients and parents involved now than there were when we started a year ago. We're doing these trainings, and the National Patient Advisory Council and Parent Working Group are growing and have new leadership. There are teams growing at care centers across the country. And what's most important about that is that it means that more patients and their family members have access to the resources that can improve their lives. And we don't want to stop there. We know that there are still thousands of those folks who could have access to this information who don't now. And that's why we're going to keep organizing until every single person has a chance to know about what's out there. So that's my personal story. I think it took in the range of 3 to 5 minutes. And so what do you think? Can you guys identify the challenge, the choice, or the outcome? And I'm just going to pause for a second and while you all do that. No? Okay, so Bing says its choice was to be part of the solution, to get involved and be proactive. The challenge was choose a community organization to approach parents. Outcome, work like we are doing now helps to advance the mission of Improve Care Now. I absolutely think all of those things are right. Any other takes? Jennifer, challenge was a lack of resources available. Choice was to get involved with the ICN. Outcome was to help get more access to resources for patients and families. Great. Anything else before we do? We're going to do the same thing with Deb in just a second. So you'll have another shot. Also, start to think about what those things would be for you, because after Deb, I'm going to ask. We can actually unmute people if you want to try to share your whole story, or type those things for yourself in the chat box. But let's move on. I think, Deb, are you unmuted? Yes.
Yes, I just unmuted myself.
Okay, yep. Great.
You can all hear me?
So do you want to? Yeah, we can hear you. Do you want to introduce yourself, share your role and where you're from, and then jump into your personal story?
Sure. My name is Deborahs Story. I was actually diagnosed with Crohn's disease in 1984. So I've had it for over 30 years. I also have an older brother who has Crohn's. And when I was first diagnosed, I was pretty embarrassed and didn't talk about it. And only my closest friends knew. So I am retired from a career in emergency medicine. And I was an instructor coordinator. So that's what I did for a living. Now I'm retired because of the Crohn's disease. So my son, he was an avid hockey player. And at the age of 9, he was actually being scouted by colleges, and top scorer of the team, always on the A team. And then all of a sudden he wasn't thriving. He was skating slow. I have some medical knowledge. I certainly don't know everything, but I know a little, and mother's intuition, I just knew something was wrong. So he started getting dropped down to the B teams, and I took him to the pediatrician, and I made her order some blood work. He came back borderline anemic. She knew my history, so I pretty much said I had Crohn's disease, and she's like, oh no, but it did turn out, long story short, he did have Crohn's disease. So he was diagnosed at the age of 9. So this was a huge game changer for me, because I thought maybe not a cure in my lifetime, but hopefully in my son's lifetime. So it was time for me to become more vocal about what can be an embarrassing disease. So my son's gastroenterologist asked if he could enter my son's data into a national database called ImproveCareNow. And then he asked me if I was interested in attending a conference in Chicago. Other than that, he really didn't tell me too much about ImproveCareNow. And I just said yes, because I knew I wanted to start getting more involved. And so I was the founding chair for Bay State Medical Children's Hospital Gastroenterology Parent Advisory Council in Massachusetts. I've been a part of the parent working group with Improve Care Now for the past 5 years. I was the communications lead for the parent working group, and now I am the co-lead for the parent working group, along with Bev Blosser, who's from Dayton. So we as parents can have a voice about the need to transform care, to identify best practices, lower drug costs, increase remission rates, and to be more informed about the Restroom Act and make informed decisions about our children's treatments. So Improve Care Now is so much more than just an improvement network. To me, it's a community in which everyone, clinicians, parents, patients, have a role in making the care and outcomes for kids with IBD better. And each member of Improve Care Now Parent Working Group is an essential and valued part of the community, which helps ensure that our network level projects and activities are designed around and grounded in the needs of the patients and their families. So Improve Care Now has worked hard to help parent leaders build a sustainable parent working group structure and have made sure that key Improve Care Now project teams have feedback and active involvement from parent partners. And of course, parent attendees can help make our semi-annual community conferences much more vibrant and educational for all participants. I mean, to go to one of these conferences, sit shoulder to shoulder with doctors and be treated as an equal is just, I can't put it into words. But and then actually they ask me questions and actually want to hear from me. So, and while the nation level partnership is exciting, so too is the extent to which parents are becoming more involved as parents with their local Improve Care Now centers. There are many roles, experiences, and levels at which parents can be involved, and you can tailor your involvement around your skills and around your schedule. So parents are not only an important part of Improve Care Now as collaborators, but also have busy lives as caregivers, friends, and professionals. And we keep learning how to help ensure that parent participation is meaningful, and Improve Care Now works with parents and patients to create new opportunities that have an impact. So Improve Care Now encourages parents to keep sharing their ideas, becoming involved at your local care center and at the National Parent Working Group level, and leading the way to getting our children into remission. I firmly believe that if you have a child with IBD and they're not being seen in an Improve Care Now care center, they are not getting the best possible care. The collaboration is incredible. The clinicians are the experts in the medicine, but we as parents are the experts on our children. And when we collaborate, exciting things and ideas happen. So we could sit around and wait for something to happen, or we could step up and become involved and make things better for our children. So we are the cure waiting for the cure. And that's why I've become involved with Improve Care Now.
That was fantastic. Thank you. So what do y'all think? What stood out to you? What in there was effective at motivating action? And can you identify the challenge, the choice, and the outcome? And I'm gonna pause again. And Deb, you worked on that story. What as you were developing that? What was helpful to you, or like how did you think about those different parts, or how did you build your story?
Well, first I wanted to start off by that I have Crohn's disease also. So I think I'm in a unique situation where I can not only help my son as a parent, but I'm a patient also. So I can teach him how to hopefully learn how to have a full life with Crohn's disease. I mean, out of all the diseases to get, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis are not the absolute worst thing that can happen. I mean, it is traumatic, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but I try to always have a positive outlook, and I've led a pretty full life. And if you were to look at me, I don't look sick. But I've had 4 bowel resections, and I just try to think about all the projects we've done over the past 5 years, and being a parent lead at my care center, and being the communications lead, and now the co-lead through Improve Care Now and the Parent Working Group. Just the things that I have learned. I have made lifelong friendships, and I really feel like Improve Care Now is on the cutting edge of medicine. We want to make sure what's ever happening in Boston is happening in Los Angeles, is happening in Dallas, Chicago. Because if we're not sharing information, I mean, hospitals used to be isolated, and it used to be, this is our information, we're not going to share it with anybody else. Well, Improve Care Now has changed that model to be, we steal shamelessly and share seamlessly. And we use that saying all the time at the conferences. And I love it, because why shouldn't you, if something works for you at your care center, why shouldn't you share it with another care center? And then we feed off each other. The parents, they get ideas on how to start their groups and what projects to start. It's just phenomenal to when you get all those people together and brainstorm. It's so exciting to be at a community conference. I can't tell you, but I'm just so happy that I can be a part of it.
Thank you. It's wonderful. So Amy shared that is glad that she's been an advocate. Deb, you've been an advocate for your son's treatment. I think we all are. Any other thoughts? Any other things that stood out to you all? Challenge, choice, outcome. Okay. Challenge, 14-year-old with UC. Choice, either to be quiet or get help with an outcome, and to get involved and to help others develop tools. That's from Carmen. Great. Fantastic. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on, and y'all can start to share your challenges and choices and outcomes and whole story if you want. I want to show you this sheet, and this is something that'll come out in the follow-up email. We're going to have a follow-up email that comes out tonight. I hope you all can see on the screen. This is something that we use in the in-person trainings, where people can actually, we would break out into groups of two, and people would have the opportunity to fill out, what motivated them to get involved, what action did they take to bring about change, and what was the outcome, and then to practice that story with each other. And so y'all will be getting this. I've been either taking part in or giving this training for just about 10 years. And every time I have the opportunity to go through it, I do this exercise and I get something out of it. And so if you feel like you already have a personal story, or that you've done this before, I would advise to do it again and take a fresh look. Jennifer shared the motivating action was her son's diagnosis and wanting to get involved. Absolutely. Anything else before we move? Okay. Deb, thank you so much, and stand by because we have more parts where people are going to get to talk and share. So, does anybody want to step up either in the chat box or I can unmute you, or you can be unmuted and share, either why you decided to get involved, what you feel like your challenge, your choice or your outcome are. No? Somebody has to be willing to step up, and I promise it's not that scary. You can even type it in the chat box, and if you want me to leave your name off, I will leave your name off. No? Okay. So let me try a different way. You're all in this training tonight. You implicit in that is knowing it's important that people get involved and that you have patient and parent involvement at your care center. Why is that important to you? Why does that have value? Why is it something you want to invest time in? No? Okay. So I'm gonna move on to our brainstorming and give us a chance to just talk. We're gonna unmute everybody, and if you don't want to share your story, that's fine. I'd love to have somebody share at least parts or their motivation for being involved. But if not, I want to share a couple of different ways that these stories have been used at Care Center, and then provide open time for folks to ask questions. You are all unmuted now, and so if you're talking in the background, we will be able to hear you. And so I'd ask that if you want to be muted, to mute yourself on your end. So let's talk about some of the different ways that these are used. So one, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, in person-to-person meetings. I hold a lot of what's called one-on-one. They're sitting down with somebody, a chance to get to know them, or to share, and to find out why they want to be involved and what they're interested in, to find out what the best, what activities may be best for them to get involved. And I use personal story a lot there. One, if I share a little bit about my story, it usually makes folks more comfortable to share about themselves. And then two, if they share why they're there or why they want to be involved, it helps for me as an organizer to figure out what they may be interested in doing and what their motivation is for being involved. So sharing your story in one-on-one or small group settings. Two, the second box there is something that those are called care cards, and I'm going to try to pull them up on our Flickr account. At the fall community conference last year, we asked that folks fill out cards that sent messages to people who were newly diagnosed, so that they could hear from people who had been through this before. Now, this isn't Jennifer. Thank you. I will share that in just a second. This isn't something that this is a different type of story. It's not necessarily the same as me talking about why I got involved, but it does the same thing. It's inspiring. It helps people. It's only a couple of sentences, but it can be very powerful. And I'll share. You can see here on our Flickr page. We put the cards that were filled up out there, and you can take these and print them and use them and give them out to folks who are being diagnosed. Another example of this that I've heard since then is at one of our centers, or one of the centers in the network, Mass General. They do something called, they had an event called Painting Rocks, where they got rocks, and then their parent and patient group got together, and they painted messages of hope on those rocks. And then they sit those rocks around the clinics for people who are in there can pick them up and read them and get inspired with them. And so those are both ways that stories can be used in a little bit of a unique way that help, one, share the message, the story of us, and what our values are, but also help to share personal stories. I got two examples of personal stories, and I'm very excited about it. So Jennifer shared her brother was diagnosed with UC, and they didn't have access to resources at the time, wanted to get more involved with ICN to be able to provide more resources to more families. Fantastic. That's a great, I think, challenge and choice, and part of outcome. Amy says, was diagnosed with Crohn's when she was 12. After more than a year, it took over a year, and she was tossed around between different specialists, and was the worst conditioned patient her doctor had ever seen. As a college student, she has had to grow up to help others and make more connections, and don't want other people to start out feeling hopeless in the same way that she did. That's fantastic. I mean, I'm sorry that you had to go through that, but it is inspiring to hear that you went through that and are now taking that to help others. And feel free to keep typing in there and sharing. And if you're all unmuted. If you'd just like to share, you can do that too. I'm going to move on to the third one of these. This is a newsletter in that lower left-hand box. And one example of taking either a patient, a parent, a nurse, or a physician, and having them share their personal story in a newsletter. I think a few months ago, I shared mine in the Parent Working Group's newsletter, but it's a great way to give a more personal side to people who parents and patients may work with every day, and share the motivation of the reasons why they're involved and the reasons why they think it's important. I know that I know that it's inspiring for me to hear from physicians and clinicians and nurses and coordinators, why they're involved and why they go the extra mile to make sure that patients and parents have the opportunity to be involved. And in the last box is an example of a personal story being used, or it's meant to represent personal story being used in a group setting. I often, you heard me use it tonight in the training. I mean, this is a training about personal story, but we'll often open up conversations or presentations that I give by talking about my personal story and why I'm involved. It helps to, I think one of the things that's most challenging about trainings is being able to relate to the people you're training, and trying to find a connection with them, and it's a way to do that. I also use them frequently in meetings that I have with either partner organizations or other learning networks that we're meeting with, as a way to share our community's values without just listing our community's values. And so any other ideas or any other ways that you guys can think of that trainings can be used, or that personal story that you've seen them use, or that you can think of to use them, or questions you have about those things. I'll pause for a second. No? Okay. So I'm going to, I guess, just pause for general questions before we wrap up. I want to give a chance for everybody to share if there are things you want to share or ask, and then we'll do some housekeeping for wrap up things. Okay. So, one, my name is Chris, and thank you for listening to me for 45 minutes on a Wednesday evening. I almost said Thursday evening, but it's been a long week. My email address is on the screen right now. I exist to support engagement, to bounce ideas off of people, to talk to folks about their ideas, to talk about other tests that are going on in the network and things that have worked, and to offer advice. You can think of me as your personal engagement consultant. If you have questions, if you just want to talk engagement, if you want to hear about or want to learn about things that are going on at other centers, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. It is unlike a lot of folks in Improve Care Now, I have the only hat that I wear is engagement, and I want to talk to you about this if you have questions. Feel free to reach out. So that's first. Second, I acknowledged her earlier. I want to acknowledge her again, Maria Lester. She is a parent at Nemours, Orlando. way back when we were first developing these sessions in January. She worked and developed this session with me. So I wanted to thank her. Also, Deb, who was gracious enough to get on the call tonight, to share your story.
Chris, can I just say a couple things?
Please, yeah, go ahead.
So Maria Lester also is our communications lead. So if you go to our page and sign up for the parent newsletter, she's the one who puts that out. So I just wanted to acknowledge her also, because she's fabulous, and she's always looking for new ideas for the newsletter too. So anyone who's on the call who wants a certain topic, brought up in the newsletter, please contact Chris, and he can put you in touch with Maria. Also, if anyone has any questions for me personally, Chris knows how to get in touch with me, and I'm always available for any questions. But I also wanted to say too that some of the things that I learned from being part of this community also was I never would have known about the Restroom Act. There's some states that have laws that says that you cannot prevent someone from using your bathroom in a public area. And people need to be informed on whether their state has that law or not. Also, I wouldn't have known about the Pacific carbohydrate diet, which works for some people and doesn't work for other people. But just to even know about it, I wouldn't have known about it if I wasn't part of this community. So there's so many things you can learn. I had a parent who was struggling with drug costs, and she couldn't afford the $25,000 bill she got from the Remicade that her child was getting intravenously. And she didn't know about Remistart, which is something that can help you pay for those treatments. There's so many things you can learn being a part of this community. I could go on for another hour, but I won't. But if anyone has any questions, Chris knows how to get in touch with me, so please feel free. And thank you for having me on, Chris.
Yep, and Deb, for folks who are interested, or if they know of people who are interested in learning more about or joining the parent working group, what are some of the things that you all do? And I'm going to pull up on the screen where people can sign up. But do you want to share anything about what you guys do with the parent working group?
Sure. So we get together and we brainstorm about projects that we want to do. So they did Buzzy for shots at I think it was Riley's Hospital. I'm not sure what city that's in, but their child was afraid of needles. So what they did was they designed this sensory toy, Buzzy, to vibrate on the area where they were going to give the child the needle. And obviously this is for younger children, and it works. And so it was less painful for the child to get the shot, and plus took the child's mind off of even getting the needle. So those are some other things that we share. One of our parents did a cooking night. Mary McGowan, I forget what center she's from, but she presented at our last community conference. I thought it was awesome that they did that. Also, just getting your name out there and sending flyers out and trying to get people to join your group once you've determined that your care center is an ICN care center. We can help you with that. I mean, you're not alone. If you're struggling with getting other people involved, like Chris said, we'll come out, we'll visit, we'll talk at symposiums, we will do whatever it takes to get more people on board.
Thank you. And you can see on the screen now, if you go to ImproveCareNow.org/get involved and click on parents, folks can sign up to join the parent working group.
And someone from our team will reach out to you.
Yep. Monthly calls, monthly newsletters, great way. I know a lot of care centers, a lot of parents at care centers got their start in the parent working group and got a bunch of ideas, and then were able to go back and start organizing at their care center. And so it's, if you may not, if you're a staff member a care center, you may not have the capacity to support an engagement team right now. Finding one or two parents who can come and join the parent working group, or patients to join the patient advisory council, and learn about ideas and projects that are going on at other places can then get involved and start to implement those things or work with y'all locally to do that. Okay, last thing before we wrap up. Like I said, we are always developing trainings, and while we've done this one before, it's the first time we've done it as a standalone webinar, and would love to get your feedback. There will be an email coming out tonight that has materials and links. It also has a link to evaluate us. Please evaluate me. I am someone who likes constant feedback and draws, no, I was going to say I draw my self-worth from the feedback of others, but that's not true. And I'm also going to put that link, or I will work to have that link put in the chat box right now. I think I can, there we go. I know a lot of times, probably at every training you go to, you're asked to fill out an evaluation, and you may not always do it. We are going to rely on these evaluations to make the next round of trainings and the trainings after that better. And so please, if you'd take 5 minutes and fill it out, that would be great. Thank you so much all for joining. It's very much appreciated. I know it's a wonderfully nice night here in Ohio, and probably in a lot of parts of the country. So we appreciate you getting on. Anything else that we can do, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, have a great night, and thank you so much.